Greetings! In today's video, I'll be taking a look at this and this. But first, let's unwrap these. These are both from Arrtx. I got a set of 72 watercolor pencils. I got a watercolor sketchbook. I'm familiar with the sketchbooks, not so familiar with the watercolor pencils. The last time I used the watercolor pencils, I was in high school, so that's a very long time ago. And I'm excited to revisit this medium. This box is beautiful. I think this set looks amazing. Like, you have this foil, beautiful pattern. In the back you have all the colors included with their identification, which is always a good reference. It might be a bit difficult to show on camera, but it is this really cool sort of accordion layout. You get a swatch card. Hold on, I'll show it after. You get a brush, because watercolor pencils, so we have a brush in here that looks really nice. It's an Arrtx brush. It doesn't say what size, but it's a good size for like medium areas and small details, because the point looks really good. Then the pencils are presented in 2 rows in each compartment. They are hexagonal barrel watercolor pencils. The end of the pencil is capped with lacquer, I think. This is not my area of expertise. I apologize. But I really like this presentation. You can set them up, you know, in whatever kind of configuration is easier for you to work with. There's a beautiful swatch card that comes with it. The swatch card reuses the kind of beautiful pattern, the mosaic pattern of the whole packaging. You get 2 sort of sections for each color. I guess it's, from what I can understand, you cover up the whole rectangle and the bottom part is the one you add water to. So it's going to be really interesting to see. I don't think there's any pigment info available. And then the sketchbook, that kind of matches the aesthetic. It's not exactly the same colors as the box, but it's the same pattern. And it says, watercolor sketchbook, 100% cotton, highly absorbent, color lifting, hot press, interesting, 300 GSM, and the size is 98 per 136 millimeters, so 20 sheets. There's this beautiful, like, shimmery gold paper here. Oh, there's a big sticker. I wonder if I can remove the sticker without, you know, making a mess. Okay. Well, I guess I'll fight the sticker. Not on camera, because it might be a bit of a difficult task, but this is beautiful. Really. I hope I can remove the sticker, because it would be a shame to have such a beautiful sketchbook kind of marred with a product sticker on the back. So this is a bit difficult to bend out. The pages are perforated. If you can see here at the top, there's the perforation. I like that this is hot press. I think that since it's with pencils, I think the hot press texture is going to be a whole lot more interesting than if I was painting with, you know, regular paints and brush. So that's going to be really interesting. This is a really beautifully made little sketchbook. I'm excited to try this. I'll swatch the colors on the provided chart, that's perfect, and I'll try to come up with a drawing that I can try these on. This is going to be all new for me, so hopefully I can come up with something decent. And I'm back with my swatches, my tests, my little demo painting that I did, and my overall impressions on this particular watercolor pencil set. So I was able to somewhat flatten the swatch sheet a little bit so that it would be easier to paint the swatches on it. I think it worked out well. One thing I noticed about this particular medium is that sometimes it can be really weird how the dry color gets a different undertone when it's wet. For example, this lavender color here. So when you apply it dry, it's kind of a purple color, but when you wet it, it becomes a whole lot more pink. So there are a couple of colors like that, not that many, but still a few that when you wet them, you can get a bit of a surprise. I am not entirely sure why there is a white in watercolor pencils, but then again, like I said, I am absolutely not familiar with this medium. This is the first time I've used these in so long that it could be the first time I use these ever, and there would be no difference. I noticed with these colors that a few of them were reactive under UV light, and funnily enough, the dry paint was fine. It was only the swatch that I put water on them that were reactive. So I thought that was particular. Overall, it seems like a good color selection. There is a bit of everything in there, and at a glance like this, I don't really see any color that would be particularly missing from this selection. Now, I used these swatches as reference, and I did a few tests in the sketchbook they sent me. I really like how the sketchbook kind of matches the aesthetic of the pencils. I think that's a really nice touch. So I did these. I'll explain. So for these two, for the first one, I put the pink color first. For the second one, I put the pink and I put the blue. And then I proceeded to wet only the pink here because that was the only color there. And then I wet both of these. And then I waited for this to dry and I went back with the blue and then wet the blue on top of the dry pink. Does that make sense? Like for this one, I wanted to mix the colors together at the same time. And for this one, I wanted to try mixing them in two steps. The first color with a gradient to white first, and then the second color with a gradient to transparent, and hopefully it would somehow work. Was it successful? I don't know. I don't think there's anything here that's particularly interesting. For this one, I tried a gradient of multiple colors. So I scribbled it on first, and then I used short strokes with the wet brush to see how it would look. Yeah, it's a gradient, I guess. This leaf was just a shape that I put a bunch of colors in there, like just scribbles of everything, and then I wet it and mixed it. And then with this one I thought was a bit more interesting. It's kind of a very vague cloud shape with some kind of sky, but I added a bit of extra colors in the sky, and I think the way this one melted with the water, but not entirely, makes it really interesting, at least to me. I think it's my favorite test of all of these. And then on this second page, I tried a bunch of different things. So for the first swatch here, I used a plastic palette. It's this palette from Caturdays. It's meant to be used with their newer color too. It's a bit textured, like rough on the surface, so that you scrape some of the pencils or the crayons on there, and then you can use a brush and water and wet them and use this like a painting palette. So pretty straightforward. So yeah, for this one, I scribbled some of this pencil on palette and then wet it and painted this. For this one, I scribbled with the pencil on the side here to kind of make a sort of a palette swatch color. And then I wet this and then used this to load up my brush with paint and then painted this. It's weird to explain. For this one, I wet my brush and then picked up from the tip of the pencil. And then I was like, okay, well, none of these to me are particularly convincing. The watercolor pencil have a bit of a gloopy texture when you kind of paint with them. And it can be difficult to get rid of this texture and you kind of have to add more water. So I was like, how am I supposed to get darker colors with this and still have it look good? And like I said, I'm new to this, so all confusing. I did a few swatches like these two. I just very lightly scribbled with the pencils and then added water to see just how much of the pencil texture would remain. For this one, I just scribbled a bunch of colors and then wet it. And that's the thing that's a bit weird too, is that you scribble the colors and it's always much lighter, but then when you add water to it, it reveals a lot of the colors, a lot of the undertone colors. So then I was like, okay, let's try a little drawing. So that's what I drew. There's no point really in me trying these pencils if I don't use them with what I usually do. So I inked this little drawing of a cat with books, and then I used the pencils to color in a first layer, and then I carefully wet it like area by area so you don't get the big mix of colors that would be really unsightly. And then when that was dry, I went back with the pencils and added a bit more elements to like the skirt and some markings on the face. And that was basically it. And I think this works. At this moment in time, with my very limited experience of this medium, I'm not sure how you can get really dark colors with this, but you can definitely get some illustration work done. And I think this turned out, quite decent. Doing this little drawing was a really like calm experience, if I can say that. Coloring in the areas with a mix of pencils that I hope will give me the color I want. It was a bit of a turn your brain off moment where you just pick the pencils, scribble, pick the pencils, scribble. Put me in a really comfortable mind space. And then when I was done with the pencils, using the brush to wet everything also felt really nice. It reminded me of these coloring books that there used to be. I don't know if they still exist, but a long time ago, back when I was really young, you had these coloring books that had areas that were pre-printed with a kind of water-soluble paint, and you would only need a brush and water, and you would paint over these area, and the color would reveal itself. And that was exactly the same energy of that. I remember the feeling of, wetting an area and having a bit of a surprise at the color that is revealed. Nostalgia aside, this was a lot of fun. It was really calming. It was a really good experience. I love this sketchbook. The texture is kind of perfect for the pencils in the sense that there's just enough tooth to pick up the color, but it's not too much of a texture that when you wet it, it makes for weird effects or weird things. So that worked out well. The binding of this little book seems to be nice. It's a bit difficult to crack open at first, but once you're in there, and also if you have some clips, that's perfect. The brush is really nice. There's no details on the size of it or anything, but it's kind of a color that reminds me of those fake squirrel brushes, and it holds a nice point, and it worked really well. I quite like this brush. As for the pencils themselves, they worked out fine. I was a bit unsure at first with this kind of accordion layout. It felt like an inconvenient way to see the pencils, but it's actually much better than I thought it would be. When you spread it open, it's hard to sound it's hard to show on camera, but once you have it open, it's really easy to just kind of grab a pencil and turn it until you see what number it is, and then you can reference the number with the chart of swatches. And I was able to find my colors really easily. And then when I was done, I just put them back in there in any kind of order because I realized that it doesn't really matter. So this turned out to be a lot more serviceable than I thought it would be, and I think it's due to the fact that the accordion, when open, only allows for a double layer of pencils, so you don't have pencils that get lost in the middle in a way. Now, of course, when these get used up and they get shorter, perhaps that's a different story, but for now, this works well. So that sums it up for my impression of these pencils. I think they're really nice. From my standpoint as a total beginner to these, I quite like this convenience of having something that can be diluted but also used dry. So you can get a different range of texture and color depth and all of that. Someone who has used watercolor pencils more extensively might have a different take on these. And if that's the case with your situation, please let us know in the comments what you think of these, and if you've tried them too, I would love to know. And in the meantime, I would like to say a great big thank you to Arrtx for sending me the pencils and the sketchbook. This was a lot of fun. And also, thank you guys for watching. See you in the next one. Bye bye.